Hi there! Welcome to the Research Center. My name is Sarah Augustine, and I'm the archivist here at the Independent Seaport Museum. And today we are launching our new YouTube series, Seaport Vault. Let's get started. In this series, we will be reviewing some different items from our collection that are just really interesting, unique, and sometimes kind of strange. And we really want to bring them to light and share them with you guys. And to launch the program, today we're going to be talking about the launching bottle. The ritual of launching ships has been recorded as far back as about 3000 BC and has only recently become a secular tradition. Before that, it was really grounded in ritual and spirituality. We have records of the Babylonians sacrificing oxen and even Vikings sacrificing slaves to kind of christen and introduce their vessels to the sea. The use of spirits, which we're more associated with today, can also be traced back to England when they would use wine to christen their vessels. The use of wine became customary in England in the 15th century when the king would drink from a goblet, sprinkle a little bit on the ship, and then throw the goblet into the water. But in the 18th century, the Royal Navy was christening so many boats that it just became too expensive to be throwing a silver goblet into the ocean every time they had to christen a ship. So with that, they started just taking a bottle and cracking it against the bow of a ship. It is this practice that followed the colonists to the Americas, where today we still have it in place. While wine was traditional, whiskey, brandy, and other spirits were also used. And what happened during Prohibition, you might ask? Well, they just used water or cider instead. Traditionally speaking, it was typically men that did the launching of ships, usually a captain or other esteemed member of society. But in 1828, we have the first recorded launching of a ship by a woman. However, her identity is not known. The first identified female sponsor of a ship was Miss Lavinia Fanning Watson in 1846 as she launched the SS Germantown from the Philadelphia Naval Yard. Her father was John Watson, who wrote Watson's Annals, and he was a historian, antiquarian, and writer that was really prominent in Philadelphia society. Over time, having women launch ships became more and more prevalent and really a social standard. And today, the U.S. Navy only has women launch their ships. Usually, this was a woman of high social status, like a debutante or someone whose father was important, or even the daughter or wife of a captain. Today, we usually think of champagne being the spirit of choice. However, that was not always the case. Queen Victoria is actually credited as popularizing the tradition of using champagne as she christened the HMS Royal Arthur in 1891. All right, and with that, you guys can follow me to the vault and we'll explore this further. In the vault, we have several examples of launching bottles. The first example we're going to be looking at today is from the SS San Juan, which was launched at Harland and Hollingsworth in Wilmington, Delaware on November 4th, 1899 by Miss Louisa Adams Ceballos. And you can see that the bottle is still slightly intact by the neck of it. The bottles were usually decorated, and in this case we had some satin ribbon in the colors red and probably white, this aged at this point, and the ribbon would have been wrapped around the entire bottle. This next example is for the SS Sunshine, built at Sun Shipbuilding Company and Dry Dock in Chester, Pennsylvania. The sponsor of this vessel was Miss Eva W. Pugh. Compared to our last example, we can see that it was not only satin ribbon used, but also a very shiny sort of macrame type thing that encased the bottle. She must have hit it pretty hard because there is no bottle remaining in this relic. And this final example is very different from what we've seen previously. This was for the SS Neshaminy, launched by Mrs. Charles A. Parson in 1919. And this one is encased in a box for preservation's sake, but the bottle itself was encased in silver, and you can see all of the satin ribbons still intact. Our records say that it was encased in metal to prevent the champagne and the glass from hitting the dignitaries in attendance at that ship launching. And if you look closely, you can actually see the dent in the bottle where it had hit the bow of the ship. And now we're on to the next section. Alright, so now we're down here in our Tides of Freedom exhibit, which you guys can actually visit anytime you want that the museum's open. While we mentioned earlier that it was usually a woman of really high social status that christened a boat, in this case, Rachel Stevenson, who had worked at Sun Shipbuilding for 22 years, was chosen to launch this vessel. The Marine Eagle, launched on May 10th, 1943, was the first ocean-going ship built by entirely African-American crew. It was a very historic occasion. Now let's head back up to the J. Wells Henderson Research Center to learn a little bit more about launching ceremonies. So what exactly happens when you launch a ship? Think of it this way. A ship is being formally introduced to a body of water just as you would introduce a friend to another friend. You're giving them their name, you're introducing them, and you're just sending them on their way. During a launching ceremony, the sponsor, or the person performing the launching, will be at the bow of the ship, which is otherwise known as the front of the ship. They will say the name of the boat out loud as they crack the front of the boat with the bottle of spirits, causing a whole explosion of spirits, sending the boat on its merry way wherever it may go. We do launching ceremonies to promote the safety and stability of the ship as it goes on its voyages for the duration of the life of the ship. Even today, this is a ceremony of much fanfare and importance in the maritime community. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed learning more about launching ceremonies, especially during Women's History Month. I hope you join us next time as we uncover more stuff from the Seaport Vaults. Thanks.